going to give you this mic back. But what I'm going to say to the ladies that been told that you cannot have, you tell the devil you's a liar.
And it's crazy how long of a video this is, right? But I told her that I'm leaving. I was like, you know, I'm gonna do you a solid, you know, because I'm always trying to do people a favor. I'm like, congratulations, like, I'm about to do you a solid, girl. I'm about to get up out of your hair. I'm about to call DCFS, girl. So literally, I told her, I was like, you know what? Tomorrow is my last day of school, junior year. I'm gonna go to my social worker and I'm going to tell her I need to find a new place to stay. You don't have to worry about me anymore. That's what I said to her. And of course, that's what she wants to start backtracking and, you know, doing the reverse, because she's like, social worker. She's like, I don't come from that world. I don't come from that world. I don't deal with social workers. I said, you bow to today. You bow to today.
And the lights get out. Slow motion, I freeze you, watch me. Sample me, reduce me to somebody. Hit me, no, don't you just nod your head. Don't try to change it, I said what I said. Hit you with a playback, I said what I said. Look what I did.
Bueno, so I'm gonna tell you another story. I'm trying to think. I told the credit one, oh yeah, lying to DCFS and her calling the police on me. I'm gonna tell the DCFS story first, and then I'll tell the other one another time maybe, because I did tell that story already. It's just that I didn't focus on that one incident where she called the police. I kind of compiled all the stuff that happened on those 2 days into one video. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about that in another time. But in this video in particular, I want to talk about BSAFS. I want to talk about this experience that happened towards the very end. Actually, yeah, like the very end of my junior year. So hold on. Suck paseniente. Welcome to my universe. Welcome back to my universe. Hey. So I want to talk about this experience that I had, right? And I'm going to try to make this as quick as I possibly can, because I know that it's a very long story. There is one isolated experience that is connected to the actual story, so I'm going to start with that one primero. So the year is 2015, what a while ago, and this was the winter time. I remember the season was the winter. I believe this happened at the beginning of December or the end of November. Definitely, it was like really cold outside though, like the heart of the winter probably. So for some reason, my legal guardian's husband was out. I don't know if he was at one of the locations, because for those of you who just got here, my legal guardian had a catering company. She had, I'm not going to put like too much of her business out there, but you know, she would do events, and then she had contracts with the city where she could set up camp basically and do her, you know, she would hire kids to work at these different sites. I was one of the people that I got hired. That's how I met her. Before she was ever my legal guardian, she was just my boss. So yeah, the first year and a half that I worked for her, I worked at the pool location in a town over from the one that we lived in at the time. And then the third or the second year that I was living there, I started working at the lake. And I did not want to be at the lake. I didn't want to be outside in the sun for the whole day, talking to people, serving people food, like concession food and stuff like that. Like, I was just like, I don't want to do it. But I will say this. I do feel like her purpose was to guilt trip me into believing I had to work for her for as long as I lived with her, and that was my way of helping the household. She would call it contributing to the household. And I told her one time, you know, I don't want to, I'm fine with just going to work anywhere else and then just giving part of my check to the household for the income. But she made it clear that that's not what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to work for her. She was like, well, that doesn't help me. And I'm like, yes, it does. Like, your bills will be paid. What are you talking about? She's like, no, I want you to help me. Basically, she wanted somebody within the company and within the household so that she could just be able to rely on my work ethic and pass on what her agenda was to me, so that when she wasn't around and it was just me and her ex-husband, who was still her husband at the time, I would be able to accomplish that despite whatever he decided to do to counter her agenda, because they were always butting heads. And I will say this, 2015, that was like towards the very end of their relationship, or their marriage. They got divorced the next year. But before I get ahead of myself, in December, he's driving out, he's doing something for the company, something like stocking coolers, setting up for an event, I don't know, going around checking on the sites, I don't know. But he rolls up and his truck is very loud, so we always knew when he was coming. The dogs start barking and everything. It was like an everyday thing. So he comes down, or he goes into the basement, and that's all. Like, I'm just aware that he goes into the basement at this point. I'm just in my room. I'm just chilling. My legal guardian is in the front room, like probably watching Housewives or something like that, just chilling as well. He had a way of really let me be polite. He had a way of really messing up the vibe of a place. You know, his energy was so dark. He was an angry person. I think he was a bitter person because of a lot of unresolved issues from his childhood, like finding his relative dead, on a day, like just waking up and finding someone that you love and someone that you're close to dead. I'm sure that has to haunt you. And he was in a bitter relationship with a woman, which probably in some ways reminded him of the way his relationship with you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that he was just in a very triggered space, and the relationship that he had with my legal guardian only kept him there. I think that he knew he was unhappy, but he was unwilling to look for happiness elsewhere. He was fixated on the idea of them, you know. And I think it comes from the place of, I've spent so much time on this relationship. I've given you so much. I've invested so much. I don't want to start over. And that's where this is just what I'm gathering from the kinds of things that I heard them say to each other, and they argued all the time, and I was like right there to hear it all. So that's what it seemed like from him. And from her, my legal guardian, she blamed him for like all of her misery. She was the kind of person where everything wrong in her life is your fault. Everything wrong in her life has something to do with everybody but her. She's not held accountable. She's not responsible. She's sad. She's unhappy because she's a victim to all of her circumstances. And that is why she managed to stay in a relationship with someone who abused her for 10 plus years, you know. And it's not to say that these things don't happen. It does, actually. It's so common. And I'm like, when are people going to start turning the mirror towards themselves and stop pointing fingers at everybody else and trying to showcase at how everybody else is wrong, and start saying, well, geez, I did have this opportunity to leave. Geez, I could have done this. I just didn't want to have to deal with this. Because that's usually what it is. You have the opportunity to leave, but you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to be alone. You don't want to start over. You don't want to be by yourself and with all that other stuff. That's usually what it is, but people don't want to acknowledge that. People don't want to acknowledge that they just don't want to be uncomfortable for a little while. And I think in this situation, that's what it was. And they kept blaming each other and arguing with each other. And the tensions were so thick. By the time I got there in the middle of 2014, their stuff had already collapsed. Their marriage was already just known to everybody around that it was over. But they stayed in that space and stayed with each other. So I'm going to give you a little context so that you understand how things escalated so quickly. So he comes upstairs at some point and he starts talking to my legal guardian, and he used to talk at her, not to her. And if you know the difference, when somebody's talking to you, they're actually like asking you questions, waiting for your response, noticing something that you said, responding to it, asking you about a little bit more, paying attention. When somebody's talking at you, it's usually when they just state things. they ask rhetorical questions. They don't actually give you an opportunity to answer. That's what he's doing to her while she's sitting there with the show pause and everything. And so he's just going on, and the way that he was towards her is very passive aggressive. Very, very passive aggressive. That's how they both spoke to each other. So anywho, he's throwing darts at her, telling her like, oh, like she hired crap employees and whatnot, because he took pride in all the kids that he hired and the kids that he found. And yeah, he just had like a vendetta and this desire to like put her down whenever he could. I did witness that. He would just ruin the mood, ruin the atmosphere, ruin the energy of a space just from opening his mouth and talking about something. Maybe he's just not a people person. Maybe he's just not used to talking to people. But it was weird. He just didn't know how to like have a conversation. Like if you have an issue with someone, you don't approach the person like they are an issue. You say, this is what I'm noticing. But he had poor communication skills, and it was just, she was manipulative, conniving, and deceitful. And, you know, they were going back and forth, but she wasn't yelling at him and he wasn't yelling at her. They were just bickering. Just if you've ever seen like two married people who don't like each other finding anything to talk to each other or talk at each other about, that's what it was. And he brought up how she hires crap employees and how her employees left an ice cream freezer unplugged and almost $1,000 worth of product melted. That's what the issue was for him. But he took this long avenue of criticizing her and then finally getting to that one point. And yeah, talking about me and my friend who worked the same shift left the freezer unplugged. Now, I don't recall us doing that. And he did get caught another time lying and saying somebody else left the freezer unplugged, another black girl, when she swears that she did not. I believe that he unplugged it to sabotage the company because he knew that the divorce was coming, but that's another time. So yeah, he brought that up to her and was going back and forth, and then he finally goes downstairs. And I'm sitting there in the room the whole time. I don't say anything. I'm just listening. You know, I was doing something, but they were too loud for me to like continue with what I was watching or whatever. And I remember my legal guardian calls. She's like, "Hey, Star," like calling me out of my room, like, "Hello, come here." She's like, "Hey, Star," and I'm like, "Yeah." And then there's silence. So I already know that means, you know, like, come here. She's like, "Can you come here for a second?" So I come out there, and she's just like, "I just don't think that it's fair. She's like, "I just don't think it's fair that you let me sit here, or that you sat there and let me take that verbal beating." I sat there and let her take a verbal beating. That was her issue with me in that moment. So it's like, let me get this straight. Your husband comes upstairs and disrespects your entire being, and your issue is with the girl that you invited to come stay into your home, knowing that your relationship with this man was in shambles. You've been with this man for 10 plus years. You claim he's disrespected you from the beginning. You've claimed he's said rude, or she never called it racist, but that's what it was, remarks from the beginning. You have all these memories of how it was so bad in the beginning, and yet you've been there for 10 years. And whenever women say stuff like that, I'm like, Jeannie Mai from The Real, for example, talking about, I knew from the first year that it wasn't going to work out. Singing an entirely different tune now that you're fed up, now that you're angry, now that you're bothered, now that you've been embarrassed, now that some lines have been crossed. But where were your boundaries and all this other stuff before? Because you were singing a totally different tune. You must have been, to keep yourself in this relationship for so long. And what women will do, what people will do, men as well, I'm sure, what we will do is just not acknowledge that we play a key role in our own misery. I think it was Khalil Gibran, I don't know, but he said we choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. And I'm like, amen, Pastor, amen. It's so true. We do, and we keep ourselves in situations we don't have business being in. Every time you complain about something and you don't do anything to change the behavior, you are keeping yourself in your own misery. That's what this woman did for 10 plus years, and then have the nerve to call me out of my room, like we back in the 1800s, and tell me you don't think it's fair that I let you take a verbal beating over something that I did. That man did not come upstairs. That man did not come from working for your company to talk to you about something that I did. That man came upstairs to take all of his insecurities and his frustrations and all the ways in which he hates himself and his life out on you. That's what he came upstairs to do. He threw me in there to make it a double jab. That's all it was. That's all it was. And she's acting brand new like that's not her husband. She's acting brand new like she doesn't know this is the person that has been doing this manipulative, psychotic stuff for the long run. And those are your words. And I'm looking at her like, I let you do what? No, I did not. And that's why I didn't take any responsibility for it. And I'm like, excuse me, I said her name. I was just about to say her name, but I call her my TLG, my temporary legal guardian, because that's what she was, my temporary legal guardian. So I'm like, TLG, no, I cannot control any of the words that come out of his mouth. We both know that. He said what he had to say. I said, you already know how he is. I remember now. So I remember how things escalated. So I tell her, like, you already know how he is. You decided to bring up such and such, because they did start to argue, like I said, and she had a habit of hitting below the belt. She had a habit of like saying such disrespectful things to him, and she brought up his I don't even know if I should repeat this, but she brought up his sister and talked about how his sister's retarded, and she was just throwing out how he comes from a family of retardation, just saying stuff to disrespect his being, because they did start to argue. And so when I brought that, the reason I'm bringing that up is because one of the things I told her after defending myself, and I'm like, you already know how he is. This is nothing new. I don't understand why, instead of just ignoring him or telling him you don't want to talk right now, or just turning up your television, you decided to engage that. Not only did you decide to engage it, you decide to antagonize him by bringing up his retarded sister, insulting people that he knows doesn't help anything. And here I am talking logic. Here I am. The year is 15? I was 16 turning 17 at the end of that year. Or wait a minute, was this 20? Yeah, this is 2015. I was 16 turning 17, yep. And I'm like, talking to her with such reason, like, you decided to engage him. I'm not raising my voice. I'm just telling her, you already know how he is. Like, there's no reason to engage. Trying to be as respectful but as honest as possible, because what do I got to lie for? What do I have to lie to you for? How does it benefit me to lie to your face and make you think that what you did or what you didn't do was wrong or right or whatever? I'm telling you, this is what I just saw. And what I just saw was you antagonize him. And then and that resulted in y'all starting to bicker and him saying even more condescending things to you. And you now blaming it on me because you need somewhere to direct your energy. No, we're not about to do that. You're not about to do that to me. And she did not like that. She did not like me talking to her rationally. So she starts yelling at me. It started with us whispering because he's in the next level, like in the basement. He can hear us if the door is open. So it escalated. She starts talking to me crazy, disrespecting me, blah, blah, blah. That ended with everybody just being really uncomfortable in the house for the next week. That was December. That's not even like the kicker, bro. So fast forward to the year is 2016, and it is May or something like that. Like, it's the very last day of my junior year, the second to last day, I mean. So she had gone on some trip, and she had come back towards the middle of like the spring going on the summer. She had come back from being away for some time, right? And the company is seasonal, so he as in her husband, who was still there, he was getting stuff ready. I think he was doing something, and she had come back. She was really annoyed. I remember she was walking around, her energy was really bad. They were arguing earlier that morning. I think at this point she had already been on dating apps. She had already started talking to this man. She had started losing weight. She was in the gym more. She was walking around sort of like me and her husband are like these burdens to her, keeping her down, keeping her from being able to like go be free or something like that. Her, like, that's how she's walking around. That's the energy that she carries after she has come back from her trip. Mind you, she went on this trip with this man that she met on a dating app maybe like a month prior. She, you know, had to go to a funeral or something like that. This man, I guess, had nothing to do or nothing going on. So he went and flew with her. They went together. And I don't think that her husband at the time knew that this was going on, that she was not only going there for the funeral, but also to just vacation. And, you know, she left the whole company behind for her. And Lord have mercy, I'm gonna try to make this quick, y'all. I'm gonna try to make this quick, but it just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, you're getting a divorce. You're getting ready to get a divorce. Why are you leaving your company, your livelihood, in this man's hands? You know what I'm saying? Because of course what ended up happening was she found her money from the company in his car, in his possession, in his items. And I'm like, no shit. You're vacationing. You're vacationing. And I remember I brought this up and she's like, I lost somebody. You didn't lose somebody for the entire 2-3 weeks or whatever that you were gone. You lost someone. You left knowing that your intent was to just get away and be free. If this was solely about going to the funeral, you wouldn't have invited some dude you met off a dating app to go stay with you and meet your family and friends. You were securing a new relationship so that by the time your current husband left, you would be able to shuffle someone else in, which is exactly what she did. Literally exactly what she did. And I saw through it. And that's what I'm saying. If you're going to be bold enough to do it, own it. Just own it. That's what you were doing. You left your company behind. You left your dogs behind. You left me behind to oversee this BS, to be a part of this BS when I told you I don't want to be here. And then you have the nerve to come back from your vacation and have this aura about you, this aura, this attitude, as if somehow we are the problem. Like we haven't been holding down your company the entire time you were vacationing. You know, so I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember what she came into my room for. But she comes into my room and she starts talking to me with some kind of attitude, disrespecting me, asking me rhetorical questions, being passive aggressive towards me, and then asking me what's my problem. Like she would do stuff like to incite you, just to like irritate you. And I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it was. I'll have to go through my journal when I go ahead and edit this later to try to figure out, like, because I remember the time of the year and I may have written about it. But I'll see, I'm like, it was just weird. And she just started going off on me. I remember she brought up me being black and ghetto, and I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from, because I could have sworn you're the same person who would talk to me and talk to me like, oh, you're not like, you know, like a lot of black people or black girls. You know, it was just so interesting that like when it's time to insult me, you say I'm acting like a ghetto black girl. I'm talking like a ghetto black girl in my ghetto family. It was really weird. I was just like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you bringing up my family? What is your problem? It was so weird. So weird. Like her energy was just misdirected. I feel like whatever happened with them earlier that morning, she was just taking it out on me. She was just really upset. And I didn't know where it was coming from. So anywho, we're in my room when this is all happening. Her husband comes upstairs because he hears us going back and forth. At this point, I was on a futon at the time, and the futon was in like the couch mode, like it was positioned in as a couch. So at a certain point, I'm sitting there. She comes over and starts standing over me, and she's like looking down at me, talking to me how I'm not shit, I'm ungrateful. She loves to say that I was ungrateful, even though I know I'm a very, very appreciative person. I say thank you more than I even say my name most of the time, more than I say anything else, you know. Like, I'm always saying thank you to people because I think it's important to show people appreciation. Every little thing counts, every little thing, every little gesture. You know, you never know what you will do that like makes somebody's day. So even if it's just saying thank you, because it does suck when you're like serving people, if you work in customer service, if you just serve people, if you're always overextending yourself and people don't ever show you appreciation. I know what that feels like, so I'm not gonna let this person tell me about myself. I know I'm very appreciative and grateful. So, you know, she was calling me like ungrateful and stuff like that. Anywho, her husband comes into the room and he's overseeing her like take her anger out that should be directed towards him on me. And he's like, you know, come fight with me instead. He doesn't say that, of course, but he starts telling her like, oh, I didn't mean to say her name. Oh shit. He's like, you know, like TLG, like, come on, let's go, come on. And I've never seen that kind of thing before, but she was like, what did you, like, move. She's like, what did you guys do? Fuck while I was gone? And I was like, what? What is wrong with this woman? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so weird. Like, now you're accusing me of messing with your husband, your racist husband, your husband that sits here and says things like, well, was he black? Oh, there you go. No, I'm not laying down with that. I'm not laying down with that. And it's amazing to me that she equated him defending me with me giving him some or having sex with him. And it's like, you're so fucked up in your fucking head. I'm sorry, but you're so messed up in your head that you can't even see that your actions are so unwarranted. You think that somebody's coming over here to defend me because I had sex with them. That's the world that you come from. It's because everything that you do is transactional. I'm sure a lot of the nice things and other, I'm not gonna go too deep on that one because I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, girl. But I was just about to say something to disrespect your entire being because I'm like, like, I see that's how you've gotten a lot of things in your life, having sex with people, because you're very transactional. But not everybody is like you, honey. Not everybody goes down that road, honey. No, but not everybody has to go down to get what they want, honey. It was just unwarranted. It was bizarre. And of course, when I brought that up later and I threw that in her face and I told her, I reminded her, she don't even have to throw it in her face. I just reminded her that that's what you said to me. You accused me of having sex with your husband when he was trying to move you out of my fucking face so you don't catch a case, you idiot. It was just so like, whew. And she's like, girl, she's like, I never did that. And I'm like, of course, that's what you do. Gaslight your way through everything. Say you didn't do it just because you don't remember. You did it because that's the kind of disgusting thing that you do. You do those kinds of things. You come from that toxic place in your heart. Anywho, it gets even better. So I finally get up, you know, like he's moved her out of the way and stuff. And she comes, I walk out of the room. At this point, I'm just trying to get away from her and get out of that little room that I stayed in. She comes out of the room. She's in my face arguing with me. She says something to me. I don't even remember what I said or what she said. I just remember telling her, like, you are just attacking me for no reason. Like, I just pointed out to her, all of this is unwarranted. And I kept trying to remind her, I don't know where this is coming from. What I found out later, which is where the comment about me doing her husband came from, was they had an argument earlier that day, and he told her that I told her some BS. He told her that I said that when I first moved in, she told me things about him to make him dislike me, or to make me dislike him. So it's a bunch of bullshit. It's like kindergarten stuff. Like, he said, she said, I can't even keep track. So my TLG's husband told her during an argument earlier that day that that my legal guardian told me stuff to make me dislike him, and I told him that while she was on vacation. I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. First of all, we all already knew that your relationship was just in shambles. Like, I live here. I witness what you guys say to each other. I don't really need her to tell me stuff. Yes, she talked crap about you, but you already know that. She talks crap about you to all the employees. That's why all of them be looking at you sideways. You already know that. So he put that bug in her ear to incite her. That's probably why he came upstairs and was defending me. It wasn't on my behalf. It's because he knew that he's the one who put the bug in her ear, and this is what she was doing as a result of that, in my face, choking me. So yes, this girl, this woman, this 50-something-year-old woman put her hand around my neck just like this and began to choke me. And I looked her in her face and I said, blank, get your fucking hands off of me. No strain whatsoever. No blinking. I'm not gonna lie. I probably looked a little aggressive. I mean, she's the one with her hand around my neck, but I guess how calm I was. Listen, when I got my nose pierced, I sat there. Even the man said, it's a little concerning how calm you are during this, because I literally just sat there, like calm as possible. So she has her hand around my neck, and I've been down this road with my birth mother. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, get your hands off my neck, because what you don't want to do is bring me down and think that I'm not going to make sure you go down with me. Oh no, honey, that's where you got me all messed up. What's not about to happen is you are not about to have your moment where you take your anger out on me and think I'm not going to do the same to you. Girl, I got anger too. We all have problems. We all have issues. What makes you pathetic is your inability to do something about them and how old you are. That's your problem, because you are closer to death than you are to your first arrival, unlike me. I have time to progress. Every day that I wake up, I progress. Every single day, because I have awareness, okay? I am aware. You are so busy pointing at everybody else as the issue in your life, and you will go down. You will go down. You will end your life never understanding how much of a toxin that you were, never holding yourself accountable for any of that. And that's why your spirit will not grow. That's why your spirit will remain in a dark place, like the little girl who was violated, like the little girl who was disappointed by her parents and by the people who weren't there for her. Your spirit will remain in that place, because that's what you hold on to and use as an excuse to make yourself a victim whenever you go through anything. Isn't it something? When you just be looking at life and noticing stuff. And that's why I have chill. That's why I'm able to just sit there unbothered, because I know, I am aware, I am in tune. You're not about to bother me. You're not about to try to belittle me, say something disrespectful to me, put your hands on me, and think you're going to break my spirit. Oh no, honey. Oh no. So I told her, like, and it's crazy how long of a video this is, right? But I told her that I'm leaving. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do you a solid, you know, because I'm always trying to do people a favor. I'm like, congratulations, like, I'm about to do you a solid, girl. I'm about to get up out of your hair. I'm about to call DCFS, girl. So literally, I told her, I was like, you know what? Tomorrow is my last day of school, junior year. I'm going to go to my social worker, and I'm going to tell her I need to find a new place to stay. You don't have to worry about me anymore. That's what I said to her. And of course, that's what she wants to start backtracking and, you know, doing the reverse, because she's like, social worker. She's like, I don't come from that world. I don't come from that world. I don't deal with social workers. I said, you bow to today. You bow to today. I'm like, oh, well, because you just put your hands on me. You are technically well, actually, at that point, she was no longer my legal guardian, because it's 2016 at this point, and I became an emancipated minor on December 1st, 2015. So I was already my own legal guardian or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, you just put your hands on me, like, you and your toxic relationship with yourself, with your husband. and all that stuff and your new friend. Like, no. Like, I need to get up out of here. So I told her I'm gonna go to my social worker, and I did. My last couple classes of the day, I just went to the social worker's office and I told her what happened. And I didn't tell her, I will say this, I didn't talk to her about it like I was scared. And if anything, I'm not gonna lie on myself, if anything, I tried to downplay it because I didn't like going to the authorities. I could tell from the way that my legal guardian started to backtrack, I could tell that she was scared. She didn't want her company and she didn't want her name to be associated or in the system, like my family or like myself. Like, she didn't want to have to deal with that. And I'm like, oh well, like, oh well. So that's how I felt like after everything had happened. But then the next day, I think that I had just started to like calm down and start to tell myself, like, you know what, I'll just have to find another way. I have to strategize differently, like, because I'm not trying to actually go into the system. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to open an investigation. So I'm just talking to my therapist and saying, all this other stuff except for the fact that she actually put her hands on me. So my therapist, when I told her that, like, the verbally abusive things that my TLG was saying to me, she was already like, that's not right, Darlene. Like, But then when I did tell her, she did put her hands on my neck. She did try to choke me and stuff, but such and such and such. And then I just grazed over that one part because I was venting, And she was just like, oh, like, I'm sorry, it's my job, like, I have to. And she's like, I have to. And I was so scared. I started crying when they brought me into another room, even though the school day was over for all the not the seniors, the juniors at that point. I ended up staying longer because they called DCFS, and she was like, somebody's gonna be at your house tomorrow. It went down. Like, she was just like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, and I know you're scared, but just understand that we have a tendency to protect the people who abuse us. That's not right. Da 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 da. So I remember when I left the school, I was on the phone with I called my legal guardian, and I was scared. I was scared because in the past, when DCFS was called when I was living with my birth parents, that resulted in all of us getting our behinds beaten, like, whooped. When my younger brother confessed something, when they started asking questions to the rest of us, they asked me a question and they told me, I would say that they manipulated the situation. They told me that my brother had already confessed, and I'm like, well, if he already told, let me tell ya. So I started to tell them stuff that had happened, and they were like, oh, okay. And then they called my parents, and they told my parents that these had came in. And of course, we go home. My mom was like, so I was not. I didn't have like a long track record or anything like that of like my temporary legal guardian abusing me, but I figured she just choked me, like. And now I'm about to tell her the DCFS is coming. Hopefully, it doesn't become like part 2. That's all I'm thinking. But eventually I told her on the phone, like, I was trying to beat around the bush again. And I told her someone's going to come to ask some questions and make sure that I'm okay. And she's like, okay, so basically you just told on me, and now you invited the system into my home. Like, she was like, thanks a lot, Star. So I'm walking to the bus stop to go to her house, already knowing that this is how she feels. Of course, I go home. She follows me into my room, and she starts like arguing with me about the fact that somebody is coming over. And of course, the next day, the person comes, and the tensions are there between us, but it's amazing. Like, the lady asks us all these questions, and she asks about their relationship, about any signs of abuse or anything like that. And of course, they lie. I'm like, just earlier that week, I heard stuff being thrown and what sounded like somebody being slammed against the wall. But y'all will swear, that nothing hasn't gone down. This man has spat on my TLG before, but of course they told the DCFS lady that nothing happened. So, she asked me some questions too in front of them, and I just, answered everything. I lied. I said that there has never been a sign. I backtracked. I said something like, I don't even know like how I managed to lie my way out of that one, honestly. Just something about how my foster mother didn't or not my foster mother, my TLG didn't mean to do something or whatever. And it was a black lady who interviewed us. She's looking at this white woman and this white man, and she's looking at me. She's just looking. As we're all talking, she's just looking. But I think that something in her spirit just told her, like, I'm gonna be okay. I mean, I am now. But at the time, you know, I think she could tell that I was lying about some things, but that we were all lying. We were all lying. You know, when she asked them, the couple, if there had ever been any abuse, they started laughing. Like, her husband just started laughing. I'm like, you just gave yourself away, sir. You know, you just gave yourself away. When somebody be like, do you smoke cigarettes? No, I'm not interested in that. Simple. But he just started laughing like, like, you just gave yourself away. Go. But yeah, it was interesting, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I was scared for her. I was scared for the company. And I realized now, of course, that a lot of the weight that I felt was about stuff that didn't even have much to do with me. I was just absorbing her fears, her concerns, her energies, her frustrations, everything. Absorbing everything. And I felt like I was her emotional punching bag. Like, whenever she needed to take something out or to just vent, she would just come to me. But then I couldn't ever go do that to her. Like, I couldn't vent about stuff. She was so critical. She was so like, I just want to go watch TV. I just want to go watch my show. That's how she was. But you'll sit there and listen to her tell you about her poop was a weird color. She had a dream about her mom. And it's like, I know all these things about your son, about your sister, and all this other stuff. And it's like, there was no reciprocity. It was a really bizarre, toxic relationship, a really bizarre time. Yes, I will say, of course, that there were positive moments, and there's a lot that I learned from that experience, and from observing her, observing that relationship. You know, every time I've witnessed a dysfunctional relationship, I'm just like, okay, these are more things not to do. These are more things not to say to your person. These are just all the ways I don't want to conduct myself, so I don't end up like these people. And I can only thank goodness, thank God, thank the universe that I at least have learned that. You know what I mean? So yes, I know that this was very long. That is the time that I lied to DCFS along with my temporary legal guardian and her husband about abuse, even though the day before she clearly choked me. And I think that she saw something in my eyes. I think that the pressure or the noise coming from her husband talking to her like, what are you doing? And me looking right into her soul like, do you really want to do this right now? I think it was just a lot. And then her also just knowing she has a whole boyfriend on the side and whatever, and she was planning her escape and her divorce. I think it was just a lot going on. I don't know, maybe she short-circuited or something, but it was wild. It was a sign from the universe, though. That happened in 2016, and I did not leave until 2018. I did not leave until the spring of 2018. So best to believe, you guessed it, there were more experiences like that where she told me to leave. She looked me in my eyes and said F you to me twice or maybe 3 times. And yeah, she eventually called the police on me and lied to them. I told that story already. And it's so interesting seeing all these cases in the news where people have been like Karen or Becky'd or whatever, where a white woman calls the police on you for doing absolutely something you have the right to do, which is exist. And yeah, it's interesting that like not too many years ago I had an experience just like that with my own legal guardian. But yeah, it's interesting. I'll say that. And by interesting, I mean a whole lot more. But those of you who like get the message, you know what I mean when I say it's interesting. Ya tú sabes. So yes, on that note, I would say, tata mi amores, take care.
Gonna give you this mic back. But what I'm gonna say to the ladies that been told that you cannot have, you tell the devil you's a liar.